Alright, so I thought putting these nuts on the UHMW bolts was probably worthy of a video, just because there are some aspects to it that, it's kind of been figuring out as I go. But so I had a lot of different lengths of bolts that came with the UHMW kit, and I was just trying to put those in places that made the most sense. And as you'll see around the intake here, I tended to use the longest ones. So I wanted to be able to get, the full seal washers and, nuts and lock washers. But I also used leak lock on those, the blue. That's actually Permatex, but it's a medium Permatex thread locker. So I had a bunch of crown nuts and regular nuts, and then I picked up some skinny nuts just in case I came into a situation where it was so skinny I had to slip it on the top, like such as underneath these. And so far I don't think I'm going to need them, but so I'm using the crown nuts where they're short, and I can't, like these here, I think they're probably the 3/4 inch length, but there's not enough thread there to get the lock nut on, so I'm just using Permatex on that. In retrospect, I'm not sure. I like the sealing washers. Obviously the rubber can wear out or dry up, but the other thing to remember is on the bottom side, when I put the bolts in, they're all tapped and threaded, but they also have this sealant when the screw went in. So, this would act as a thread sealant to some extent, plus it's on the bottom of the head and UHMW on every bolt. So, that in itself is a pretty good seal. Main thing I'm concerned about on this side is, I want sealant. I want a sealing material on this side, but I also need to lock these nuts, because with these boats there's a lot of rigid vibration and it resonates, and it's so nuts coming loose, if you don't do something, you're probably going to end up with a bunch of loose nuts rolling around the bottom. And the thing is, you can hear a loose nut rolling around the bottom when you're running the boat, because of the vibration, that nut will rattle and just resonate through it, and you can tell just by listening. So using the thread locker, but like under here I couldn't get a seal in. It was too not enough room in there above the bolt. So I just got out the sealant that I used on the bottom. It's really good, and this stuff hardens up, really pretty stiff. So I thought, well, if I go ahead and use acetone, clean the bottom of the boat, put that on there, and I just tighten the nuts down on it. And that's a good seal, but the sealant will also hold that nut. It's, I don't know if you can see that very well, but you can see the nut's kind of encased in the sealant to some extent. That's good. That'd be a pain in the butt when it goes time to remove it, but you still have the screw head on the other side to just unscrew it out. So no thread locker on that, obviously, just the sealant. But that sealant is a pretty good thread locker, I believe. So that's what I'm going with. I just, make sure your surfaces are clean, that this sticks to stuff, and I think that's good. So otherwise, all these ones with the lock washers and nuts have Permatex on them. I'm hoping between that combination will keep them tight, not backing off. But it's definitely a concern. So I wanted to do all the hard ones first. The ones behind that intake there was a couple that just took me like a half hour to get one. And I basically just dumped thread locker on it because I couldn't get a washer push on. And I barely got the nuts threaded and turned down. Just the reach thing. So there's a couple in the back that just have a lot of thread locker and then the nut tightened down onto the metal. And I think that'll be okay. At least they're in a spot where I don't have to pull the engine to get to them in theory. Even though then it wouldn't be easy with all the stuff in the boat. But anyway, if I was to plan this out again, I don't really care for the crown nuts in general. I mean, they're obviously limited in how far they go down, but I'd like to see a little bit longer bolt. Now, the way I did the motor mounts, these right here are too tall for the original way they told me to set it up, because I barely had an 1/8 inch down here from the pan to the bottom of the hole. So these wouldn't have really been possible. Really anything in this zone right here wouldn't have been possible with having the motor in the way they said to do it. Because if you use the 1/2 inch thick intake ring, then your motor just ends up so close to the bottom, there's no room for this stuff. So you'd be basically without anything from here to here, because they don't even recommend using these. I just wanted to mimic the original jet ski setup, so I used them, but I also went with an 1.5 inch, I think it was, thick intake ring, so I raised the jet pump, which I think performance-wise probably isn't great. You probably do want it as low as possible, but it's a trade-off. But I don't know, whatever. I guess we'll see how it is what it is. But if that's lower, your motor's lower, when you're putting UHMW on, you're probably not going to want to do this, So I don't know that it would really even make that much of a difference if you didn't have ones in the middle, but I have room, so I went ahead and put them, because just with the washer and the nut here, the top of that's over 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 from the bottom of the boat. So you need 5/8, and the 1/8 inch just obviously wouldn't cut it. So anyway, that's kind of how that's going. Pretty slow, getting the hard ones first though. So there's 3 more underneath here, and then I'm clear. So the rest of the nuts will be in pretty open, clear territory. Shouldn't go too bad, but so far it's been going kind of slow. And just one more thing, this marine sealant, this 5200, I like it. It takes a long time to set up. If you're in a hurry, it's going to be frustrating to use. But once it sets up, it's pretty decently hard. Now, this is an aluminum can with this 3M 5200 sealant. It has a seal on the back that you pull off to get the gun into it. Obviously, that's exposing the plunger to air to harden on the bottom over time. So as far as storage goes, kind of once you open it, you're probably timing down. Now, if you store it at cool temperatures, obviously it's going to last a little bit longer, because it needs the heat to cure up. But what I was doing is I'd take a finger off of a glove, and then I'd put the glove finger over that and tape it on to the shaft, seal it up. But I would push a little bit out before I put it on, so that there was actually sealant inside the tape, or the glove itself as it went over it. So the glove wasn't the only seal of the plastic, it was actually the material itself, which and then I'd push some out in a ball here once I taped it on. And it's been quite a while since I used that, since whenever I did the hole. It's been at least 2-3 months. And basically when I pulled this off, I just had a little piece of solid material, and it was liquid again. So that really works well, and I use that on that other stuff that I got from RSR as well originally, and it worked. It stayed good for a long time. So anyway, that's just a good way to seal up your tubes, and I've used it at work for silicone and other stuff too, and it does work well. So later.